My mother demanded that I give up my house because my sister was pregnant and needed the house more than I did. I'm a 31-year-old man named Ethan, and I have a 28-year-old sister, Samantha, who has honestly been the golden child to my mother, Karen, but never to my father, Michael, for as long as I can remember. My parents divorced when I was a teenager because my mother cheated with an old high school ex-boyfriend, and she has always been controlling, manipulative, and narcissistic. Sadly, my sister was like a mini version of her. Our mother also seemed to believe she had total authority over me. Anytime she snapped her fingers, I snapped to attention like a dog. It was demeaning, and my sister always backed her up. So it was no surprise that I went to live with my dad full-time after our parents split, while my sister stayed with mom. The two of them were very alike, and both pretty much stopped speaking with my father unless it was about money. Though I'm more like my dad, who was very business-oriented and started teaching me his line of work. As soon as I turned 16, I got pretty good at it. After 12 years of working for my father, I was made a partner in his company. Things were great, but then, about 8 months ago, tragedy struck. My father had become somewhat immunocompromised due to being a heavy smoker for much of his life and died at 60 years old after he caught COVID-19. I met my mother and sister for the first time in years after we had a socially distanced funeral for my father over video call. My father was cremated by his own request and buried in Greenwood Memorial Park in San Diego, so there was no body or casket. My sister seemed to grieve, but my mother looked indifferent the entire time. Honestly, I was not surprised. The last time she saw my father, she screamed at him that he owed her more money and then threatened to sue him, to which he just laughed. He paid alimony and child support as long as he was legally mandated to do so, and no more than that. He even put $30,000 toward my sister's college fund. 10 years after the divorce, he was no longer legally required to send mom money because of the judge's ruling, and she was by no means broke. She works the same job she's had for nearly 3 decades at Bayview Insurance, fully owns the old family home we used to share, and even rents out 2 of the rooms to Airbnb regularly. She's by no means hurting for money. Sometime after the funeral, my dad's will was read. Apparently, he'd figured that if his heavy smoking didn't eventually do him in, something else would, and he even joked about it in a pre-recorded video. I was pretty much willed nearly all of his assets, most of his money, his business, and his home. He left my sister a car, a 2015 Toyota Camry, and about $10,000 in cash. My mother only got $1,000 and a few other items that she'd been claiming were rightfully hers since the divorce. Beyond that, I got the rest, and my girlfriend, Rachel, now lives with me in the house my father passed down to me. Samantha pretty much went from finishing 2 years of community college to living off her boyfriend, Tyler, and only working part-time online for several years. During that time, she got pregnant but suffered a traumatic miscarriage. I wasn't aware of it until after the funeral because we were practically no contact and no one else told me. When lockdown hit, her boyfriend's job started downsizing little by little, and eventually he was only able to stay on part-time, which hampered both their finances. He eventually told her she needed to look for better employment. Then she got pregnant again and called it her miracle baby. One evening, I got an unexpected knock on my door. When I answered, I was unpleasantly greeted by both my mother and sister. They walked right in without even asking and made themselves comfortable in my living room. Rachel and I shared a look of confusion. I asked why they come by. Samantha was giggling and looking all over, opening doors, and seemingly giving herself a tour of my home. My mother had just plopped herself down on my sofa and snapped her fingers while demanding a cold bottled water. My girlfriend got the water for her, and I asked what they were here for. Samantha seemed all giddy and ignored me, continuing to snoop around my home. Before long, I heard her yell from down the hall, "Mommy, it's perfect." Yes, she still calls her Mommy. My mother finally spoke up. "Well, I think it's time to ditch your brotherly duty," she said. I was like, "What?" My mother then proceeded to say, "Now that your father has passed, this house should have gone to me since I was his only spouse, but you can still fix this. You make plenty of money and could just buy a new house. Your sister needs this one so much more since she's the one with a baby on the way. But if you're so determined to stay, you could just keep one room and cover all of the bills until you decide to move out. Rachel and I had read enough Reddit to know exactly where this is going and how it'd play out if I let it go on. So I guess you could say we were mentally prepared. I took a deep breath and stated aloud, "That's not happening. You don't order me around, especially not in my own goddamn home. Yes, I make plenty of money, but like Dad, I'm going to save it for when I really need it. Not that you care." My mother started snapping her fingers at me like she used to and loudly stated, "Stop. I am your mother, and you will do as I say because I brought you into this world. I am the one in charge here, and as far as you're concerned, I am God. That means when I say jump, you say how high. This house is rightfully mine, and your sister will live here. Consider this your formal eviction. But since I'm gracious, I'll give you 2 weeks to pack your bags and transfer the deed to me." In the back of my mind, I kept thinking, this can't be real. But I grabbed my cell phone and started dialing. "What are you doing?" she yelled. "I'm doing what I should have done as soon as this started. I'm calling the cops to get you out of my house," I retorted. She started swiping at me and managed to knock my phone out of my hands. Then she proceeded to try and stomp on it, but I was quick enough to snatch it up before she could. "That's it. If you don't leave, I will force you out myself," I said firmly. My mother proceeded to slap me across the face. I returned the favor twice as hard, backhanded, so much so that I ended up knocking her back down onto the couch. She held her hand over her reddening, smeared makeup face in total shock, and then yelled, "How dare you?" I went back to dialing on my phone and said that if she didn't leave, I would have police come and remove her by force. Samantha came barreling in between us, holding her arms out and saying, "You should just do the right thing for once in your life and be a good big brother." I snapped. "Oh, really? I'm the bad sibling? Last I checked, I was the one who has had to work for a living since I was a teenager. I had to do all the chores in the house while you just sat on your ass playing video games or talking with your friends all day, and you used to steal my hard-earned money just to go out shopping after spending all of your allowance. You're a complete mooch and thief. So I don't owe you anything. Now both of you get out before I decide to dial this last number." Samantha started to tear up, crying like a baby, and said, "Mommy, make him stop." My mother began hugging her and kissing her cheeks while giving me a death glare. Then she seemed to think she'd gotten smart and said, "You know, if you do call the police, I can just tell them that you hit me, and who knows, I could maybe say to everyone that you wanted to do a lot worse to a poor pregnant girl in need. I don't think that'd be a very good thing for you." I cut her off with a raised hand. "Just stop. If you haven't noticed, my girlfriend over there has had her phone out recording almost this whole time. And that means we have recorded evidence of you assaulting me first and openly stating you'd lie to police. I don't think that'd be so good for your reputation at your job or your little Airbnb. If looks could kill, my mother would have blown me up like a tactical nuke." But she quickly deflated and started dragging my crying sister out by the arm. Samantha somehow acted like a complete toddler and broke loose of her mother's grip to sit down on my porch step and have a tantrum. I just gave my mother a look and said, "Do you see now? This is the result of the spoiled way you raised her." She glared at me again. Then I was treated to a show of my mother trying to drag my sister off my porch steps, but she latched onto the porch handrails and kept saying, "You promised me. You promised me," over and over again. I let out a cackle and told them both from the door to never come back. My mother flipped me the bird and then went back to trying to drag my sister off the porch. It took a few minutes, but she finally got Samantha to get up and leave with her by saying, "You're a cruel, heartless bastard who'll go to hell for this." I laughed some more and said, "There's also a special place in hell for liars and narcissists who try to manipulate others to get their way." My mother clenched her fists and was about to say more when I just held up my smartphone again with it recording and said, "The clock is ticking, Mom. Get off my property." My mother then walked my sister to the car, gave me one last snooty look, and drove off. I thought that was the end of it, but letting things go was never something my mother would do. After a few days, I started getting messages from people I know and some relatives online. A lot of them were furious with me, but others just had questions about what was going on. I tried to check my Facebook, but I couldn't see anything they were saying because my sister and mother both blocked me on their social media. My girlfriend could still see everything because they kept their profiles public. We screenshotted everything and then printed some of it out. Both of their profiles had posts that called me a greedy, heartless bastard who stole the house that was meant to be my sister's inheritance right out from under her by paying off the lawyer who handled Dad's will, which is a complete and utter lie, and they both know it. I called my lawyer, who is also my father's lawyer and a trusted family friend, and gave him copies of all the screenshots from Facebook and a video my girlfriend had recorded the day my mother demanded my house. He wanted to just write a formal C&D, but I wanted to take it further than that. He sent them a letter via express mail that had to be signed for, so I knew they got it. My mother called me in absolute fury the same day the letter was delivered. I told her that if she and my sister didn't redact all of the untrue social media posts they made about me and tell the absolute truth, I'd send all of the information I have to the whole family, her boss, and upload the videos we'd recorded of her online, and then I'd sue her on top of it. She called me unreasonable and said she just did what she did for my sister's sake. Then she went into a full-blown lecture, reiterating her belief that my sister still needed my house more than me. I bluntly stated I didn't care what she thought. If she didn't redact everything and tell the truth, I'd make sure her career would be over. She begrudgingly said, "Fine, you win. Have it your way and keep the house." Before hanging up the phone that very evening, all of the lying posts disappeared from both their profiles. I was unblocked, and my mother gave me and everyone a half-hearted apology, claiming she jumped the gun with everything she said because she thought my sister needed my house more than me, because she's broke and pregnant, but the house was rightfully mine according to my father's will, and she knew that even before he passed. She had no right to try and claim it. As for my sister, she also apologized, but more or less just parroted everything our mother said, while claiming she just went along with her ideas, and then she blamed what she did on her mother and her pregnancy hormones. The replies poured in for some time on both my mother and sister's profiles, many furious with them for trying to take my house. I got a lot of messages of sorry and my bad from those who'd previously believed her. But all it really did was show me who was more on her side to begin with, since they were all believing her nonsense. So, quickly, they were mostly people from her side of the family anyway. No one on my father's side believed her at all. Samantha and her boyfriend ended up moving in with her mother to save money, but she put them in the basement to keep her Airbnb running. Samantha started crying on social media that she couldn't live upstairs, and I'm pretty sure the two of them were fighting with each other because all my sister did after that was complain online. My mother barely posted anything on her social media anymore because of the previous stunt she tried. After a few more weeks, life slowly started returning to normal in my house. Rachel and I continued living there without interference. Samantha and Tyler eventually found jobs that allowed them to get by, though they stayed in the basement to save money. Karen barely posted on social media anymore, probably realizing that her stunt had backfired badly. Despite all the chaos, I felt a sense of relief. Finally, my father's wishes were respected, and my home remained mine. I also realized how much my mother's manipulations had shaped my sister's behavior over the years. Seeing Samantha cling to her mother, throwing tantrums like a toddler on my porch, made me understand why I had always been cautious around both of them. Samantha eventually started attending therapy to deal with her anger and entitlement issues, though she still occasionally messaged me, try to manipulate me into doing the right thing for her. I always responded calmly, reminding her that the house was never hers and that she needed to focus on her own life and child. Karen tried a few times to pull the same stunt again, but after the C&D letter and the police threat, she finally backed off. She focused on her Airbnb business and her job, leaving us in peace. I made sure to document everything going forward, texts, calls, visits, so there would be no future attempts to challenge my ownership of the house. Over time, Samantha's miracle baby was born. I didn't hold grudges against the child. After all, a baby shouldn't be blamed for the mistakes of the parents. I offered support only when necessary and kept it minimal, maintaining boundaries. Rachel and I continued building our life in the house my father left me. We renovated a few rooms, made it cozy, and even started planning for a future family of our own. The sense of security and independence that came from keeping my father's house was invaluable. Looking back, I realized just how toxic Karen had been. Her manipulative behavior, constant comparisons, an attempt to control both Samantha and me shaped much of my adolescence and early adulthood. It wasn't just about money or property. It was about power and control. But standing up to her, with Rachel by my side, taught me the importance of boundaries and self-respect. Samantha's relationship with her mother remained complicated. She often vented online about being forced into the basement or about how I was a mean sibling, but most people who knew the full story could see through it. Over time, even her posts became less dramatic as reality caught up with her. I stayed in touch with a few of my father's friends and family, who were deeply supportive throughout the ordeal. Their advice, encouragement, and shared memories of my dad reminded me of why I needed to protect his legacy and uphold his wishes. Eventually, Karen tried to manipulate her other acquaintances, claiming I had been unfair to both her and Samantha. But the evidence was irrefutable. The videos, the messages, the C&D letter, all documented. Anyone with an ounce of reason could see that her claims were false. Slowly, her credibility diminished among mutual friends and relatives. Through it all, I learned a valuable lesson. No matter how manipulative or entitled someone may be, boundaries, documentation, and calm assertiveness can protect you. I also learned the importance of trusting my instincts and standing firm in my convictions, even when it meant confronting family members who had historically held power over me. Rachel and I now look forward to our future without the constant interference of Karen and Samantha. We host friends, work on our projects, and even take short trips without worry. The house has become more than a building. It's a symbol of autonomy, respect, and the life my father intended me to have. Whenever I think about that day on the porch, the shouting, the tantrums, the threats, I can't help but feel a mixture of disbelief and satisfaction. Disbelief that my mother actually thought she could force me out of my own home, and satisfaction that I stood my ground and preserved my family's legacy. In retrospect, every confrontation, every threat, every tear shed by Samantha and Karen was a test of character. And I passed. The house remained mine, my boundaries were respected, and my future was secure. That day, I realized just how powerful it is to combine preparation, evidence, and confidence when standing up to people who think entitlement gives them rights they never had. Now, whenever Samantha tries to manipulate me or guilt-trip me about the house or finances, I calmly remind her of the facts. My father's will, the documented evidence, and the simple truth that I worked hard for everything I own. Rachel stands beside me, as always, reinforcing that our home is a safe space, protected from anyone trying to impose their toxic influence. Life has regained its rhythm. The house feels like a sanctuary, a place where love, respect, and effort are valued over entitlement and manipulation. Every day, I feel grateful for having the courage to defend what was rightfully mine and for having the support of someone who truly understands the importance of standing firm. Through this ordeal, I also learned to navigate the delicate balance between compassion and firmness. I love my sister, and I want her to succeed as a mother and individual, but I can no longer allow Karen's manipulations to dictate my life or property. I've drawn the line, and that line is respected. As the months passed, Karen and Samantha's influence over me diminished further. Social media attacks faded, and our family circle stabilized. I continued building my career, investing in the house, and creating a life that felt secure, happy, and free of undue pressure. In the end, I realized the most important inheritance my father left me wasn't just the house or the money. It was the lesson in resilience, self-respect, and the courage to stand up for what is right. And with that, I finally feel at peace.